Nice to see you all here today. Yes, I am a world silver medalist. I have a lovely big silver medal, very heavy, but actually made from recycled tin cans.
Yes. That's one of the sustainability goals that we had with the World Aquatics Championships.
Yeah. So I'm very thankful to Mark and to his team to allow me to compete on the world stage here in Singapore at a really world-class event. I have a couple of diplomas with his signature on it, so I have Mark's autograph, which is fantastic. But yeah, I wanted to start, Mark. So obviously, Sean mentioned you're an Olympian 25 years ago.
I know, right? So long ago.
But now you are the Secretary General of the Singapore National Olympic Council. Tell us a little bit about that journey from Olympian to running, an Olympic program.
Well, thanks, Mel, and thank you for the kind introduction, and the guys at All That Matters for inviting me here today. It's great to be here. Well, yes, I was at the Olympic Games in 2000, 25 years ago, and I think Sydney 2000, they had their 25th commemorative event a few days ago, and managed to see some of my old friends there celebrating. So I think it's fantastic, although it was a quarter of a century ago. But yes, I swam. I went to 2004 as well. I retired from swimming, wanted nothing to do with sports, wanted nothing to do with swimming. I joined a strategy firm with the world's largest private bank. That was the end of my swimming career because we were doing like 20-hour days. Then I joined a government consulting firm. I was based in the Middle East for 2.5 years. Helping other countries in the Middle East as well as South Asia and Central Asia with their public sector initiatives using Singapore's intellectual property. And I wanted to specialize in something. So when I came back from my stint, I was given an opportunity to volunteer at many different organizations, including the Youth Olympic Games in 2010 that Singapore hosted. It was the inaugural Youth Olympic Games, and I was a volunteer there. And I understood the importance of volunteers in creating a very warm, hospitable environment for these international guys to come in, and never stopped. Eventually, I became Athletes Commission representative, elected by the athletes to represent their views and interests at the National Olympic Council. I became the president of Singapore Aquatics, and I became a National Sports Association rep, and then I became a vice president of SNOC. My predecessor, Mr. Chris Chan, he was in the job for 23 years. He decided to retire. He was 75 years old. And my committee members asked me, hey, would I be keen to take on this job? Therefore, as of 1st April, I became the Secretary General of the SNOC. And I'm assured that it's not an April Fool's Day joke. I'm still in the job 6 months later.
That's great. And at the same time, you were holding a couple of different jobs, weren't you? Including the one with the World Aquatics Championships. And maybe we'll talk a little bit about that now. So, I think when people think about aquatics, they think about swimming and they think, it's a swimming competition. But actually, it's 6 different disciplines. It's 2,500 athletes. It's 3 venues and 6,000 masters athletes on top of that. That is a huge undertaking for a country like Singapore. Tell us a little bit about how significant the World Aquatics Championships being held in Singapore was for this country.
Oh, it's huge. Like what you mentioned, the whole world was in Singapore. And I remember the journey when I was asked by one of our government agencies whether Singapore could host the World Aquatics Championships. That was back in 2022, and I kind of chased World Aquatics around the world. In Birmingham, I was in Sydney, I was in Singapore, and of course in other parts of the world as well, trying to say that, hey, Singapore can do this, Singapore can do this. And people don't understand that because it's 6 sports, swimming, diving, artistic swimming, water polo, open water, high dive, right? That you need world-class facilities. And Singapore has a very interesting statistic. The statistic is that we have the most 50-meter pools per square kilometer per capita anywhere in the world, right? But the problem is that our pools are always 1.5 meters deep, which is definitely not deep enough for water polo or artistic swimming. So we had to build facilities. But it's significant to Singapore because it reinforced our position as a world-class destination for sports events. We were able to do this in a very short period of time. Why short? Because initially it was Russia that was supposed to host the 2025 edition. Then, of course, things happen, and there was an opportunity that and Singapore raised its hands to say, hey, we can do this, we want to do this, and we'll make it happen. And one of the biggest tasks that we had was building a facility that was able to host the number of people, the number of spectators that will come down to Singapore. Because the existing OCBC Aquatic Center that we have is a 2,500-seater. If you think about the Olympic Games or the last 2 World Championships, you're looking at 4,000 or 5,000 seaters, and we didn't have that facility. So we had to build a swimming pool from scratch with that kind of seating capacity, and we did it in 6 months, right? And I think that really showed the world that Singapore had the engineering as well as the capability to actually build under pressure, build world-class events, and deliver up to the different standards.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And there was a real sustainability push around that as well. Like you build two destinations in the pool and then also the high diving facility that are sort of temporary venues, but then you did it all with a sustainable slant. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Yeah,
so I think when we built the facilities, we really wanted to make sure that they were safe. We built up to the building codes. We also made sure that the sustainability angle was taken care of in terms of the building materials, in terms of what's going to happen to the pools after. I think for the diving well, that was something which we were very proud of because it was a Singapore-based company, the same company that built the Marina Bay Sands rooftop pool, by the way, that built the high dive pool, and it's going to be used for other events now, where we really just got the extension for the World Aquatics Championships arena to continue on, at least until 2029. But if the floating platform that was used for the Youth Olympic Games opening ceremony is a precedent. It was there for 16 years. Hopefully, we can keep it there for 16 years, but we'll see what happens. But I think there are some plans to actually make it a more community space, community use space that other sports can enjoy as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And great news for me as a swimmer. I really enjoyed swimming in that venue. I guess let's talk about the legacy then that the World Aquatics Championships leaves. Obviously it was an elite competition venue, but now you say that, we're hoping to bring more of the community in. Can you talk a little bit about that legacy and what it leaves for Singapore?
Yeah, so the World Aquatics Championships is very unique in the sense that if you look at the Olympic program, the most number of medals actually comes from aquatics. Especially now in LA, you have the addition of six new events: the 50 meters fly, back and breast, men's and women's events. So the most number of gold medals are actually coming from aquatics. So for Singapore, for a country that will probably never host the Olympic Games, that hosted the Youth Olympic Games because it's scalable, the next biggest event that we can actually host is the World Aquatics Championships. And I think for Singapore, it positions ourselves well because we're probably one of the only countries that you can have 206 nations come to Singapore and actually coordinating all the countries, getting the immigration requirements done, the security requirements done. That was a big task, but it was something that we felt was really important. When we really say that we want to welcome the world, we really mean that we want to bring the whole world down. If you look at the Athletics Championships that was done in Tokyo 2 weeks ago, that only had just shy of 200 nations. So this was probably the most diverse event that the world has seen this year. So it was really important for us to actually do this.
Yeah, I mean, that's fantastic. And let's look forward now. So you're Secretary General of the Singapore National Olympic Council. What are you looking to achieve as we look into the future towards Olympics, in 2028 and beyond?
So the role of Singapore National Olympic Council is to really uphold the Olympic Charter in Singapore, prepare our athletes together with our government agencies and our national sports associations for major games. And major games in Singapore would also be the Olympic Games, the Winter Olympic Games, the Youth Olympic Games. We also have, because we're in Asia, so we're related. We are members of the Olympic Council of Asia, and OCA has a whole bunch of other events, including the Asian Games, Asian Winter Games, the Asian Beach Games, the Asian Indoor Martial Arts Games. You have a whole bunch of Asian mini games, and of course the Southeast Asian Games are going to happen in Thailand this year in December. So we prepare them, we select the teams as well, but we also look at how we can help with culture education, how we can use sports as a vehicle for social change, how we can make people more inspired through sporting values through sports.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So what are you looking to achieve in the short term?
I think in the short term we'll hopefully continue having podium finishes at the highest levels. But I think for me, coming from as a former administrator, former coach as well, I think it's really important to actually build the ecosystem that's able to sustain the continued success. I think we do really well in incentivizing our athletes, programs to be able to help our athletes reach the highest levels. But we don't have that many programs to help sports leadership as well as sports coaches. So one of the things that I'm looking at is how we can make the whole ecosystem more robust, increase the kind of education that we have for coaches as well as administrators, and of course education of parents. Because actually your first coaches are your parents, right? They bring you to the pool, they bring you to the soccer field, and they teach you good values through sports.
Are you seeing a difference, in the 25 years since you were an athlete to now? Are you seeing a difference in the cultural importance of sport here in Singapore?
Yes, that was a quarter of a century ago. But I can tell you, when I was an athlete, there was only one scholarship. I call it the FMS scholarship, right? The Father-Mother scholarship. And that was it, I had a grant from the sports agency at that point in time, Singapore Sports Council, now renamed, now rebranded as Sports Singapore. And it was $1,200 a year, which was $100 a month, which covered my transportation. It didn't go far when you're trying to reach the swimming pool at 5:30 in the morning, because there's no public transportation at 5:30 in the morning, right? But that was all that we had, right? But I think there's lots of changes that we've seen. I think a large part of it is being able to see sports as not only just something that we can inspire and aspire to. I think what happened in 2016 with Joseph Schooling winning our first gold medal was our political leaders being able to see that, hey, sports can inspire, unite a nation and inspire generations. But also I think we can see sports as an economic driver. What we've seen every year with the F1 Grand Prix, in Singapore is that we see people everywhere coming down to Singapore, coming to All That Matters, and sharing knowledge, sharing know-how, making contacts, doing business, and contributing to our economy. And I think that has inspired Singapore and our decision makers to actually bring in more world-class events. And of course, Singapore is also a place where we know that we need talent to come down to Singapore to work, and having a more vibrant sports calendar definitely makes Singapore a great place to live, work, and play.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and I think there's a lot of hope for young Singaporean athletes nowadays. Let's change tack a little bit, because we're in a room today at All That Matters, which is not just sport, it's music, it's gaming, it's entertainment. We're all in the business of entertaining fans. And you also have a background in esports and gaming. You were part of the Olympic Esports Week here in Singapore. What do you think traditional sports can learn from, the other industries that are in the room today? I
think a whole lot. I think for sports, we're very focused on rules, structure. We're very focused on how we can impart values, how we can inspire. But there are other ways to do that, other ways to reach new demographics of people that are not sports natives. We see that at the World Aquatics Championships, in between races. How do we keep the excitement going on? Through music, through the Olympic movement. How do we reach new demographics of people, we refresh the Olympic program. I think what we've seen is that skateboarding, speed climbing, surfing, reaching new audiences, making sure that the average person that watches the Olympics is not a 60-year-old man in Europe. That it's a more diverse crowd. Especially in Asia, we see huge populations interested in sports in India as well as in China, and of course the whole of Southeast Asian region. What excites us? And I think one way was actually the Olympic Esports Week, and after the Olympic Esports Week at the IOC session later that year in New Delhi, it was announced that there's going to be the Olympic Esports Games. And the primary purpose of that is really, the purpose of the Olympic movement is to inspire new generations of guys through sports and sporting values. And, I think the Olympic Esports Games is going to be a new property that's going to be exciting. That's going to show a new generation of players what sporting values are.
Yeah, I mean, that's really exciting. And I like the idea of bringing in different sports. So, you're looking at the demographics that are coming up, the younger generation that's coming up, Gen Z. They're doing a lot of things differently. What are you sort of seeing in terms of Gen Z consumption of sport, both whether it's on screen or whether it's in person at events? What's working well that you've seen?
I wish the answer could be like, it's going very, very well. And I really wish that more athletes, more youth would actually get off their phones, get off their screens, go out, interact with people. Especially we're living in a digital age, an age of information with generative AI, which that's encroaching in every part of our lives, right? What's going to set the difference is really how we interact with each other, how we become original, authentic, and how do we become more human. And I feel that the only way to actually do that is to practice values every single day, and a great way to do that is actually through sports, through team sports. We're just talking at the table about how there's a pandemic of team sports dying around the world because people don't actually interact. But I think it's even more important so today that we play together and we interact with one another and we talk to each other as human beings.
Yeah, I think the interaction part is so important, isn't it? Nowadays, if everyone's on their phones, everyone's in their little silos, they don't get that challenge of being with other people and both competing together as teams and competing against each other. And that's where sport can play such an important role. Mark, what's up next? What's happening in the next couple of months that you're really excited about?
Well, on my day-to-day basis, we have 8 games from now until next December. There's the Asian Youth Games in Bahrain, Southeast Asian Games. We have 1 qualifier for the Winter Olympic Games. Yes, our tiny island.
Which sport?
Slalom. We have 1 athlete that's actually based in Switzerland, and he's able to qualify. Our second ever Winter Olympian, our first male Winter Olympian. He'll be going to Milan. Then we have the Asian Beach Games that's happening in China in May. Then Commonwealth Games, we are part of the Commonwealth. That's happening in July. Asian Games happening in September. The Youth Olympic Games, hopefully it happens in Dakar in October. And then in December, we have the Asian Indoor Martial Arts Games. But in between that, I think the work continues on how we can continue to inspire people through sports, how we can better educate the various generations, not only just the youth, but how we can keep our seniors active, and how we can build a better ecosystem for people to inspire.
Fantastic. Well, we look forward to supporting Team Singapore throughout all of their endeavours and supporting you on your journey as well. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Please thank Mark Chay.